investigation into racially motivated shooting that occurred. Of course, this is the United States of America. You know, everybody does shootings, but of course, you know, white supremacists do way more than other groups. The far right is very good at racially targeted, racially motivated hate crimes. The kid, as far as I understand, the white supremacist piece of shit, he originally went to a historically black college and security told him to fuck off. So then he moved into a Dollar General store. The reason why his manifesto is out and about in broad daylight is because he released it. He released it ahead of time. So if you come in here and you want to debate and be like, what about the trans shooter in Nashville? Like, well, they didn't release it. So there's not really anything you can go off of there. It's clearly not racially motivated. The swastikas on his gun weren't drawn clearly. Right-wing nutters. Yeah, right-wingers have been going crazy mode on this, of course. Not defending it, but saying, don't make this political. Don't make this political. What does this have to do with, right-wing violence? I don't get it. Speaking of which, though, of course, we are in the United States of America. More than 25,000 people have been killed in gun violence so far in 2023. And more than half of all gun violence deaths this year were deaths by suicide, as always. So just remember that. What do you mean 25K? What the fuck? Guys, there have been 131 mass shootings with 4 or more people wounded or killed so far in 2023 as well. We're breaking records, baby. #1 country on the planet. Best at doing white supremacist acts of violence. Best at doing mass shootings. Best at gun violence. Best at gun deaths. 25K by August is pretty high, I think. Yeah, it is. But I'm saying that, like, guys, this is the United States of America, baby. If they were telling me, like, you know, hundreds of thousands of people are dying to heart disease, I'm like, yeah, of course. Of course that's the case. You know, we're America. Just in as of this past weekend, the United States has now eclipsed 25,000 plus gun injuries for the year, an average of over 100 non-fatal shootings each day. From the Gun Violence Archive itself. Now, obviously, a lot of these different trackers have different metrics. That's why you'll see like 28,000 in certain points, or you'll hear 25,000 in certain different points. But, you know, let's get started with this one. An investigation is being conducted into the racially motivated shooting. As you guys already know, when the cops immediately in the aftermath of a shooting say that this was racially motivated, you bet your fucking ass it was racially motivated. So much so that, like, the kid literally was probably saying, the dude, whoever the fuck it is probably saying, I am here to do a racially motivated shooting. Okay? Because it's not like police are, you know, really excited at the prospect of immediately saying this is a hate crime. They're not. If anything, they themselves engage in a lot of that themselves and would rather not say that something is a racially motivated shooting, unless it is very obviously racially motivated. He literally had swastikas on his gun, as far as I understand, yes, and he released his manifesto to the media beforehand. So very clearly what happened in this situation is yet another instance where it's like very clearly telegraphed as a racially motivated white supremacist act of violence.
This morning into the racially motivated mass shooting in Florida, a white gunman killing 3 black people in a dollar store and then turning the gun on himself.
Community leaders gathered last night to remember the victims, including a 19-year-old store employee, along with a young father of a 4-year-old girl.
This morning, this newly released security footage shows the horrific moment a self-proclaimed white supremacist shot and killed 3 black people at a Jacksonville Dollar General before turning the gun on himself. Authorities investigating Saturday afternoon's deadly rampage as a racially motivated hate crime, one that has left this predominantly black neighborhood reeling.
Our community is grappling to understand why this atrocity occurred. I urge us all not to look.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that confusing. I'll be honest. Like, why would it be at this point? I mean, it literally happened. It happened in Buffalo. Identical terms, identical conditions, identical terms. Fuck it, even the dude looks the same. You know what I mean? It's always the same disgusting little fucking basement-dwelling Nazi cretins that are so personally wronged. Like, they spiritually feel modern society, modern liberal society has wronged them for not giving them what they believe they are worth. When there's a mismatch with what they thought they were supposed to have as white men and what society has given them as white men, they turn into, we were Vikings, I was a fucking Viking in a past life, I am the superior race automatically, and you should respect that. It's a coping mechanism that is infinitely dangerous, infinitely more dangerous than any other type of coping mechanism in a society that was built around white entitlement and white supremacy. The alternative on the other side is nowhere near as damning or damaging because the alternative does not have structural violence backing this kind of behavior, okay? Just want everybody to understand that. There is no equivalent because there is no structural support afforded to black people to enact systemic violence on white people as there is structural support and systemic violence enacted on black people at the behest of white supremacy. It just doesn't work that way. It only goes one direction. You might not like it. You might feel like this makes you lose a debate or whatever, but it is just the reality. How do you rehabilitate someone like this if he survived? You move him away from this environment. You move him away from the online community immediately. If you didn't see some of the evidence that the right is denying is on his gun, scroll down to the last picture. Yeah, people are, of course, like, first he went to Edward Waters University, sold the fuck off, and then he went and he found a dollar store. Shooter's father called the police after the shooting started. He had swastikas on his gun, obviously, and numerous other random carvings on his gun. Yeah, it's such a classic story at this point. I mean, it's been happening nonstop, especially under the Trump administration. It happened quite a bit, and it's only upping the frequency because we just have no way to deal with it spiritually. There is a multitude of different reasons for why this kind of thing happens in the United States of America with way more frequency than anywhere else. Obviously, mass availability of guns is one of them. But if you want to talk about if you want to have a more holistic approach, there's a couple different reasons. One, the white entitlement not matching the white material conditions that certain people experience, where they are like, why am I being wronged when, my parents told me I'm supposed to amount to something so much better than this? I'm not getting this. I'm not getting, the output does not represent what the input is supposed to be like, or what the input promised me. There's that aspect. And then America's interest in violence. America is a spiritual problem as well with respect to how much violence that we do overseas, how much violence that we even do domestically and totally normalize in the hands of the police, how much violence that we do overseas to other people and the negligence or the disdain that we feel for those victims of violence overseas. That kind of thing, of course, is going to have a genuine negative consequence in the minds of Americans. If there's so much violence all around you and you've normalized it, you are, of course, going to act out in this way. The shooter had also been previously Baker acted, forcibly hospitalized for psychiatric issues, yet he could legally purchase the guns. Well, that's very Florida. It's nice. Yeah, we also do a lot of structural violence to the poor and the homeless. We do a lot of racialized violence to black people, brown people in their communities that police are basically occupying like an occupying force. All of this has created a perfect environment for these kinds of things to happen over and over and over again. You know what I mean? We have more prisons than colleges. UNC school shooters still active. I'm in a classroom. Yeah, if you're in UNC, keep your head down. I don't know what else to say other than that. This shit happens everywhere. Fucking libtard. Yeah, you're right. I'm a fucking libtard because I think that it's very odd that we have had 25,000 people killed by guns so far when we're like basically just past the halfway point of the year. That's why I am a libtard. I'm talking about a white supremacist terrorist today, and while I'm talking about it, there's another mass shooting happening at UNC right now. There's chatters in here that are fucking watching under a goddamn desk in their fucking classrooms, and you're calling me a libtard for being like, that shit's fucked up. Yeah, you're right. I'm a libtard because bullets should be hailing literally every day, and we should just have Kevlar umbrellas for it and move on, because we're red-blooded patriots or something. I don't fucking know at this point. Incredible stuff. Thank you. Thank you for normalizing this kind of shit that occurs on a daily basis.
Investigators finding writings on the gunman, which they say contained racist and hateful ideology, as well as a painted swastika on one of the firearms. They say the suspect was involuntarily held for 72 hours at a mental health facility as a minor in 2017, but that he had no prior criminal history and purchased his guns, a handgun and an AR-15 style rifle, legally.
There was no criminal record, nothing. There was nothing that we could have done to stop him from owning a firearm, a rifle, or a handgun. There was no red flags.
It was hatred.
Bro, what do you mean? Wait, what? Brother, sisters, if you are 5150'd, you should not be able to buy a gun legally. Sorry. Like, literally, if you are involuntarily held, you should not be able to buy a gun legally. What do you mean? And it doesn't matter. Even if you're fucking suicidal and not a danger to others, you still shouldn't be able to buy a gun legally. You want to know why? Because what the fuck are you going to do with the gun? You're going to kill yourself with the gun. More than half of the fucking gun deaths in this goddamn country are suicides. Have you played the same part where the chief starts going hog about guns? Guns don't kill people, people kill people. Yeah. Guns just make it much easier. We're definitely about to get some That's Ableist chatters. Remember, chat? Yes, we're being ableist right now. You should not have a gun. Oh, yeah. I don't give a fuck. Yeah, dude, I'm ableist. Blind people should not be able to fucking drive cars, okay? Ableism. It's fucking awesome. I am 100% an ableist when it comes to clinically depressed people owning fucking firearms in their homes, okay? Sorry, no shot. There are plenty of fucking veterans in this chat who will also agree with me. There's a reason why when I click the run the ad button, you get, if you're a veteran, you get a fucking ad which is like, hey, please, the VA will give you a free lock on your gun case. In that 1.5 second of you, the time it takes for you to unlock your fucking gun case, you will be reminded not to kill yourself. That's America's way of dealing with veteran suicides, okay? That's how fucked up the situation is. That's America's solution to PTSD suicide with a gun. We do not care. You will not touch this country. You will not touch this country's treats. Guns are treats. It's so perfectly crafted as an identity. It's not an accident that 25,000 gun deaths have happened so far in the middle of August. Not an accident, by design.
For this individual who lived in another county and do a senseless act, it's just unacceptable.
The grieving community reflecting on the lives lost, like Gerald Gallion, a father of a 4-year-old daughter. Loved ones saying she was everything to him.
When you look at this situation, knowing that you have to tell your granddaughter, how do you make sense of all that?
I don't know. I'm just going to have to pray and ask God to give me the words and the strength to sit her down and tell her. Because she's so young. And all she...
Gun deaths by suicide and mass shootings have been a problem for quite a while. It's not just school shootings, man. It's been a very long time. Well, yeah, I know. I'm not saying it's just school shootings. I've never said it's just school shootings. I always talk about how it's the fucking... It is literally the tip of the iceberg, okay? School shootings are just the tip of the iceberg. It's just like the most unjustifiable version of a structure that is like infinitely unjustifiable from top to bottom. But that is like the maximum level of unjustifiable. Bro, we had a fucking kindergarten mass shooting. Like, what are we talking about? Yeah, it is so fucked up. Like, that's it. There's nothing else. After that, there's nothing else. That is so much violence, so much pure, unadulterated cruelty. You can't do anything after that. Anyway, DeSantis did a fucking Jacksonville shooting vigil, which was like his own Pete Buttigieg moment, I guess.
Well, thank you for doing this. I want to just say to the councilwoman, I got you. Don't worry about it. We've already been looking to identify funds to be able to help, one, make sure there's adequate security for Edward Waters College. We are not going to allow these institutions to be targeted by people.
Okay, listen, y'all. Let me tell you, we finna put parties aside. Because it ain't about parties today. A bullet don't know a party. So don't get me started. Okay, Jacoby is nice, but Ann is not. Now, if the governor wanted to come here and he bringing gifts to my community, y'all know I'm taking the gifts. Because we've been through enough already, and I don't want to go through no more. Now, y'all just be quiet just a minute and let the governor say what he gonna say, and we gonna get this party started. You hear me? Okay, let's do it.
So we have already...
She's in a weird predicament because, like, this guy is a fucking giant piece of shit, and he has played a role in white supremacy thriving in his state, like, personally utilized it as an opportunity to, you know, make campaign messages, but also at the same time, it's like, well, he's the governor, you know what I mean? He has to give fucking money. It's a weird position. Lady, he ain't bringing shit. He's just there to farm what votes. It doesn't matter. By design, in order to farm votes, it's nasty. It's a nasty situation, but by design, in order to farm votes, he will actually probably put funds towards that community. It's really fucked up, but that is America. And at a certain point, you have to be fucking pragmatic. Not that she's doing the right thing there. I mean, but there's no other situation where you have to play ball with the governor. You know what I mean? You have to play ball with the governor who himself currently is running a national campaign and wants black voters to vote for him as well. And that's part of the reason why he has to fucking dump money into that region to make it seem like he gives a shit, while simultaneously playing this song and dance where he hypes the racial agitation. He hypes up the racial agitation as much as possible.
He identified funds from the state of Florida. I've been in touch with Dr. Face.
He's also doing the weird, he's so fucking gross. I'm so glad they booed the shit out of him, by the way. He is so gross because he's doing his politician stump speech voice where he's like, we have identified funds and we're giving it to Jacksonville. Like, what are you, fucking insane? You think they're supposed to cheer after that? Like, you're expecting claps? Yeah, here, by the way, I haven't seen this yet, but I'm willing to bet that this guy didn't fucking hate DeSantis all that much, because over the last year, neo-Nazis in Florida who have openly shown their support for DeSantis, and he has refused to condemn them. Instead, his campaign featured a neo-Nazi symbol. Now a neo-Nazi shot and killed 3 people in a racially motivated mass shooting in Jacksonville. You know what I mean? Because I haven't seen his manifesto yet, but it's not like Ron DeSantis has been openly shitting on the Nazis that are protesting all around Florida and saying they love Ron DeSantis. When neo-Nazis openly carried his campaign flag, DeSantis refused to condemn them and attacked journalists for even asking him about it. He said that people trying to smear him by even asking him to condemn neo-Nazis. So yeah, no one likes him, Lamau, not Trump, not the GOP, not the fucking public, only Nazis. Yeah. Young Republicans are super groiped up, okay? They are incredibly groiped up. They're unbearable fucking Nazis. They're unbearable fascists. They're incredibly nerdy about their fascism. And they like Ron DeSantis because they think he's like a clinical fascist who's going to go in and enact their will like he has done in Florida. You want to know why? Because they're fucking stupid. They're in a goddamn echo chamber and they think people respond positively to this level of out and about, openly directed fascist violence in America right now. Now, there might be an appetite for it in the future. It certainly seems like it, but you still have to mask it. You have to push the institutions to enact a white supremacist agenda while simultaneously denying that it exists. The moment that you go out and you fucking hit the Sig Heil, it's over. Every fucking old racist is going to look at that and go, that's gross. What are you doing? The Nazis are the Democrats, not us. That type of shit. That's why most Southerners utilize Confederate imagery to invoke the same feelings. It's more of a spiritual defense of the South and Southern culture and heritage. It's Southern pride. It's not white pride. You know what I mean? Even though it's very obvious what they're fucking defending. Maybe some of them don't know because it's that personally embedded in their educational structure and that personally embedded in their media. But understand that even racists don't like to be called racist. Okay? Neo-Nazis across Florida have been engaged in terror campaign against the LGBTQ community and the Jewish community. They have regularly shown up outside of drag events and projects swastikas on the buildings in Jacksonville. The mass shooting is not isolated. The shooting yesterday is a manifestation of the putrid hate and bigotry that has festered in Florida for the last 2 years that has been emboldened and inspired by DeSantis. The media needs to hold him accountable for this because so far they have failed to. As much as we make fun of little Rhonda being absolutely fucking Rizless, okay, and how he is just pathetic, unlikable, all this shit, so are the rest of these fucking Nazis. So they, in their own echo chambers, have created a false narrative, a false reality where no, actually, people will believe us and they will see our actions and they will think it's cool and awesome because they are completely isolated from normal individuals in society that they personally think this kind of shit is actually good and that it would get mass popularity. It will reach mass popularity until they go out and protest in the wild and they get their shit pushed in and they get either arrested like January 6th or they do the Charlottesville situation, Unite the Right rally, and then they realize, oh fuck, there's actually a much larger counter protest and they go too far and then they're relegated back into the fucking shadows. This is also why anti-fascism is important because you have to show them that they are not popular. You have to show them, you have to stop them from trying to gain momentum. You know what I mean? But this is an issue with our extremely isolated, extremely alienated, hyper-atomized online communities. There is no way that you believe more than half the things you say yourself. Yes, I'm faking it. I'm faking what I am describing right now when you are most likely probably a product of exactly what I'm saying. So just listen to my words, please. I am also an extremely online person. So I get it. I get how attitudes fester in the darkness, okay? I get how in an echo chamber online, in a Discord circle, you might fool yourself into thinking that there is a lot more broad momentum and public support for idiotic, esoteric Nazi ideologies that you might believe in, or fascist ideologies that you might believe in. But that is not the case. There's a reason why a lot of people talk a big game online under the guise of anonymity, and then the moment that like one of those 4chan guys or 8chan guys actually goes out in the wild and gets arrested for doing something, every other person in that community turns around and goes, oh dude, no, that's not one of ours. That's a gay loser. He's a fed. He's a federal agent who's also a homosexual man and a fucking loser. He's not like me at all, actually. And it's like, no, he's exactly like you. He's identical to you. He's acting out the desires that you espouse on a daily basis online. The problem is he was crazy enough to fucking go out and do it. That's it. And when a light is shined upon a person like exactly like you, you realize how the broader community views your fucking insane, sweaty, nerdy version of fascism. That's it. You look like a giant fucking loser. The cockroaches scatter when a light is shined upon them. Immediately, they move away. They're like, oh, that's not like one of ours at all, actually. That's always something that you need to remember. And in order to get away from that, you have to get away from these extremely online circles that you engage in. They think that saying what their grandparents believe is transgressive. No, that's where it starts. These people move beyond that, usually. It starts off by basically saying whatever the fuck your dad is repeating from Fox News, or whatever the fuck your grandparents are saying about like gay people or whatever, and it moves into something that has to be a little bit more transgressive, has to be a little bit more culturally disruptive. So you can't just be like a regular old racist, because then you're just a regular old Republican voter. You have to move the needle to an area that is weird. And that's why you're like, oh, well, I like Francis Evola. It's like, mysticism and esoteric fascism. It's like, no, you're just desperate for an identity, and you got into a unique circle that fed your hyperfixation. And instead of your hyperfixation being fucking trains, you chose fascism. You chose racism. It's like, oh, I read Culture of Critique. It's so brilliant. Oh my God. And now I'm like a weird Nazi debate lord online. It's like, dude, how do you not see that that is not good for you? It's not good for your mind. It's not good for you spiritually. You are going down a dark path. At the end, this is what you end up doing. You gather around with a bunch of other losers just like you, and you do this kind of shit, okay? It's not good for you. Let's continue.
We're going to be announcing some stuff tomorrow morning, which I think will help not only with security, but also an attempt to help these families. The fact of the matter is, you had a major league scumbag come from Clay County up here, and what he did...
Major league scumbag that has been to all of my rallies. I mean, I don't know if he is, but...
What he did is totally unacceptable in the state of Florida. We are not going to let people be targeted based on their race. We are going to stand up, and we are going to do what we need to do.
Go ahead, bro. Tell them how the real racism right now is like the people targeting white people, actually. Come on, go ahead. There was one guy who at least had the bravery to do that. Fucking Vivek Ramaswamy, who is just so nutty with it. And we're going to get to that in a second.
To make sure that evil does not triumph in the state of Florida. And that means we are going to work with Edward Waters so that they have whatever security they need. In Florida, we've already given a lot of money to Jewish day schools because they've been targeted with anti-Semitism. Well, let me tell you this. You are not going to target HBCUs in the state of Florida and get away with it. We're going to hold you accountable. We're not going to let it happen. And we thank what everybody's done, TK, the mayor, and just know that the state of Florida stands with the community. Help is on the way. God bless you all.
They're booing him. Governor Ron DeSantis just now got a very tepid reception at the vigil for the victims of yesterday's shooting. He was also getting jeered some, prompting City Council member Jacoby Pittman to chide the crowd. Some larger context, DeSantis pressured the legislature to pass a congressional map that, for the first time in decades, wiped out a Jacksonville district that allowed black voters to elect the candidate of their choice. He was staring at those constituents directly in the face. There it is. They're now rep by some goober on the north in an entirely different county, and of course a Republican, Not that I think this will leave all that much of an impression on the man, but it was good the governor saw that unenthusiastic reception and heard the jeers. He made it explicit political policy ambition to rob those people of their political power. He has robbed them of their political power. He has made it illegal to fucking learn about their history correctly. All of this does not have an immediate fucking response, okay? Because as Americans, we immediately look at action, reaction, action, reaction. What is the tangible impact? What do you mean? Banning CRT is the reason why this shooting happened? I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that it works in unison. If you live in a country that was founded on white supremacist values, if your country did a lot of white supremacist wrongs, racial violence, racial targeting in general, systemic discrimination, which it barely accounted for and barely even educates his children on, then of course these kinds of manifestations are going to keep happening. When people go, it's not enough that cops are fucking occupying black communities. It's not enough that they are systematically left, impoverished, underfunded. It's not. That's not enough. I want more. I want more violence. And people like Ben Shapiro ask for more violence, but they do it in a civil way. It is already at the heart, already at the core. And if you never right those racial wrongs, then of course, more people are going to feel the need to express their desires in this way. Same thing could be said for Palestinians under Israeli rule. Absolutely. You see it. You see it there as well. You see it all around you see it all around the world. You definitely could ask Ron that question. Do you think that the erasure of black history in schools has radicalized these Nazi Republicans to take action and erase living black people? No. I don't think Ron DeSantis' like immediate actions created this shooting. Ron DeSantis' actions on that front will create shootings in the next 10 years. Do you understand? Because that hatred was always there, and maybe Ron DeSantis' actions embolden fascists to think that they have more broader popular support than they actually do, because they see themselves in little Rhonda, a fucking antisocial nerd who is enacting a very bloodthirsty agenda at the legislative level, at the state legislative level, right? And they think, oh yeah, this guy is just like me for real. Maybe that level of emboldenment, maybe that level of galvanizing does occur, but ultimately it's a much larger problem. And there are numerous different angles that you can tackle. You can tackle the mental health aspect. You can tackle hyper-isolation, hyper-atomization that is occurring in our society. You can tackle the material conditions. You can tackle the gun part of the problem, because this issue is not born out of a singular action-reaction situation. Everyone wants that. Everyone wants that black and white narrative. You wanna understand. If there's one issue that you can point to, however, it is white supremacy. Absolutely. But it's not born simply out of that. It's not born simply out of that. It's not just like this guy, white supremacist, now he's a fucking murderer. That oversimplifies it. It's not good versus evil. It's not just like, a black and white situation. The problem is we do not tackle a single aspect of the premise. We do not look at any of the issues or try to fix them. We don't do it. We just purposely turn around, turn the other cheek, act like it's not happening, or when it's happening, look for like different conspiracy theories. Please look at the juxtaposition of these data points: economic cost of gun violence per person and the cost of progressive policies. We could do all these progressive policies to improve real material conditions and make sure this type of violence never happens again, and you still come out saving money. It doesn't matter, dude. It makes sense, but it doesn't matter. Brother, it's like public transit. Okay, if you spend money on public transit and it's it's available and used by the public, then all of a sudden traffic is going to be alleviated, so you can drive your fucking car better with ease. You can get to places faster with your car if you want to. It will improve commerce. It will improve the economy. And yet we don't do it. Americans are just allergic to good things, okay? And we're dumb enough, and we've been so primed. We've been so fucking primed into believing that like good things are bad for us that we don't even think about it. You just can't do that. I didn't even mention how public transit would improve pollution, because that's another issue where it's like climate change will impact you personally. You do not live out in space. You live on the planet. You live on planet Earth. It's coming for you. And yet people don't want to think about it. It is much easier to avoid it. It's much easier to not think about it and say, no, that's some commie bullshit. Anyway.
The first matchup will be Ray and Abe against Lud and Hassan. So.
Oh my God. Oh Jesus Christ. Okay. I haven't played in months. This is my first time touching this game in literally months.
We can win this, man.
I think so.
One enemy remaining.
Oh! Dude, Hassan actually destroyed me. I'm
playing my face off.
Oh my God.